If it's planned, then someone's planned it. And if someone's planned it, they obviously don't have a great agenda for humanity given what they're planning. So, the idea that this is all random, some people still believe it, is insane. The number of people it takes to impose their will on billions is tiny because of acquiescence.
Exclusive from Johnny Bigger.
It's a script that's been planned a very long time. It's a script that keeps unfolding, and the government and authority statements are simply to justify the script. This is why they are incredibly contradictory, because at this point you need to say that to justify this part of the script. But at this point, you need to contradict that to justify this part of the script. And this is what's going on. You can fool some of the people some of the time and some people all of the time, but you can't basically scam all of the people all of the time. People say, oh, well, I don't know why we got to do this. And I've seen death to me, but it's come up from on high, so we better do it. Well, why must you do it? And I know it's difficult for people. I know it's intimidating. And I know, well, I can't do this if I don't do that. I know. But where does it end if we go on compromising? The system has no power. That's a myth. The system has no power. The power the system appears to have is the power that the public gives to it. We give our power away. Well, most people give their power away to the system, which then recycles it back. And at that point, people think the system has power, but it's our power that's being recycled back. Because 8 billion people getting on for cannot be controlled by a relative handful, unless the power of the 8 billion is handed to the handful. And that's what happens. What they were setting up was a society that was so controlled
from Johnny Bigger.
That they could incubate the global society that they wanted to introduce, and they could hone it and increasingly, because this is what global society is meant to be controlled by, they could move it to a situation where technology was the foundation of all control. So you have the social credit system now in China, where you do what the government wants and you get credits. You don't do what the government wants, even down to the fine detail of your choices, then you lose credits. And you lose enough credits where you get banned from flying, get banned from going on a train, etc. If you are setting out to destroy a society, then it's key that you destroy the society psychologically. You destroy the self-respect of the society. You destroy respect for a society. They are destroying the respect and self-respect for American society, which dilutes resistance to its dismantling. They're playing the same game again, but to a greater extreme. You control billions of people by controlling their perception, which controls their behavior. If you don't have self-respect, you don't have personal self-respect, then you're not going to resist tyranny. If you look at every tyranny that's been brought down in human history, it's been brought down by people with self-respect who said, I'm not having it. We're not having it. We're not taking this. That's self-respect. But if you can delete self-respect, all that's left is submission. And one of the things that's going on in terms of this is, if you look at it from a certain angle, people have not researched this. They'll say, look, these bloody governments, they're bloody stupid. These bloody rules, they make no sense. Look at all the contradictions. And they want us to do this, and they want us to do that. That's all about destroying self-respect. That's what it's about. Because they know if they can destroy self-respect, then all they've got is submission left. So the point is that the level of these psychologists and that which is deciding all this and driving all this, they want you to see that the rules are nonsense. They want you to see that they are contradictory and make no sense. Because if they can get you to see it and you still do it, then your self-respect's been deleted. Because people with self-respect do not do just because some prat in a dark suit tells them.
Exclusive from Johnny.
What they can see is a nonsense. I think it's important that people face the scale of what we're looking at. This script is planned to get more and more severe. And when are we going to look it in the eye and wait for it to blink? Now or further down the road when moral control systems are in place. And it's one of the things going on from what I've just said that they are trying to persuade you of is that resistance is futile. There's nothing you can do about it. It's about self-identity in the end, and it's about a perception of who we are and the nature of life itself, the nature of the I. If you self-identify only with your labels, the labels of a human life, a very brief human life, a very brief experiences with these labels, then the world looks a certain way. And people in uniform can look intimidating, and people in dark suits and all, oh, I've had this letter from the council. Oh, really? Well, anybody got a bin? The way that you look at the world from that point of view, what I call 5 sense mind.
Exclusive from Johnny Bigger.
Is everything can seem very intimidating, it seems very frightening, it seems very bewildering. And also these people seem to have power. And the power that these people have over you is your fear of them. Their power is your fear of their power, which is only your power recycled back. When you go to another level of awareness, sitting cross-legged on a mountain here, anyone can do it. It's just a choice. And you self-identify in another way, not with the labels of a human life, which are just experiences, but with the true I, which is consciousness, an eternal consciousness, expression of consciousness, exploring infinity infinitely, then the 70 years and 10 in a human life, they look very different. And the people apparently in power look very different because, okay, I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be. I'm having currently a brief experience called David Icke in a tiny band of frequency, almost laughably small, called human society. But I am infinite. And when this brief sojourn of focused attention, which is what it is, it comes to an end, then I'm going to go on exploring forever. And what happens when you come into this self-identity with being consciousness and being a vastness of consciousness that's only limited by your own sense of limitation of your consciousness, then what you start doing is what you know to be right, not going through a series of possible consequences for doing what you know to be right. Because once you start looking at the consequences, I'm not saying consequences like walking in front of a truck. I'm saying the consequences of what you know to be right in those circumstances. Then the consequences will give you a getaway car. It will give the mind a getaway car not to do what you know to be right. Yeah. So I don't consider consequences in that sense. If I feel that I need to do something, I need to say something, then I'll do it, I'll say it, and the consequences will take care of themselves. What you tend to find with that is when you come into the power that we all have, you don't tend to get the consequences that people think you would get. You know, we do create our own reality by our perceptions of reality. And when you're fearful of authority,
exclusive from Johnny Bigger,
then you're making a connection with that authority, and you are almost making a frequency energetic attachment to it. And so suddenly the consequences you were fearful of, you get. The greater consciousness, that is the true I, is experiencing this tiny band of frequency through the 5 sense mind. The 5 sense mind is the experience directly. We interact with this world. But the greater consciousness, and I've used the analogy of the computer, 5 sense mind, and the person sitting at the keyboard, the greater consciousness. And they're supposed to interact. We're supposed to be in this world, but not entirely of it while we're having a human experience. This cult wants to disconnect the 5 sense level of experiencing from the greater consciousness. So basically what it's doing is isolating 5 sense mind from the big picture, the radar, mission control. And then once it's isolated it, I see it like a bubble. Then it controls the information that the isolated consciousness receives to form perceptions. So you get people who are all that is, has been, and ever can be, who think they're Ethel on the checkout and Bill driving the bus. That's all I am. I'm just Bill driving the bus. I've got no power. No, that's your
Exclusive
experience.
from Johnny Bigger.
What you are is infinity, ultimately, having that experience. But if you're going to control billions of people, you don't want them aware of their true self and the true nature of reality. You want them isolated. Isolated. So this takes us out of the bubble. This is our big connection to out there and the greater self. And for me, the true self, this infinite I, during a human experience through the five sense mind, that real self sits here. And it can express itself when the heart is open, when the cortex is open, or it can sit there behind a firewall of being ignored because the mind and the emotions, the head and the belly are in control of perception, which is what the cult wants. But when you open this, everything starts to change in so many ways. First of all, you start to realize that your life is starting to change. Suddenly, you've got more synchronicity in your
Exclusive
life.
from Johnny Bigger.
You start to notice more and more coincidences where you're kind of in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people.